This is a gray whale. It is exhibiting sharking behavior, a foraging behavior. It is so close to shore, you can see the waves breaking and the people playing.
My name is Lisa Hildebrand. I am a master's student in the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife at Oregon State University, and I'm working with Dr. Lee Torres in her lab that is part of the Marine Mammal Institute to research gray whales. Gray whales exist in two distinct populations. One is the eastern North Pacific population, which occurs from Alaska all the way down to Mexico. And the other population is called the Western North Pacific population, which occurs kind of along the Russian and Chinese coastlines. And the population that migrates past us here in Port Orford or along the Oregon coast in general is that Eastern North Pacific population, which breeds in the wintertime in Baja California, Mexico, before they migrate all the way up to Alaska and the Arctic to feed up there in the summers. And the majority of this population, which is about 27,000 individuals, do this migration from Mexico to Alaska and further up north in the Arctic. However, there's a group of about 200 to 300 individuals that decide to cut that migration short, and they stay on the Pacific Northwest coastline, so from kind of northern California to southern British Columbia. And this group is called the Pacific Coast Feeding Group, and that is the group that I study here. The research team, which typically is composed of 4 people each year, 4 or 5 people each year, is split into 2 every day. We have a cliff team and a kayak team. It sounds counterintuitive that it's a land team that is studying the whales, but that's what's so unique about gray whales is that they come in really close to shore and they feed in these really shallow coastal habitats, which is unlike kind of any other big whale species that feeds in deeper waters and further offshore. But because of this very unique behavior that gray whales have, we are able to sit up on a cliff, which is right behind the OSU field station, and watch them from shore. And we use a piece of equipment called a theodolite, which is a surveyor's tool that uses known heights and angles to kind of calculate a very specific GPS location for where the whale comes up to the surface. So we have one person who mans the theodolite, and then the other person on the team has a laptop which is connected to the theodolite, and together the theodolite and the laptop kind of interface to get these specific GPS locations. And from those we basically make fine scale track lines of where the whale is moving, how much time it's spending in an area, what behavior state we believe it's in. They also have a camera to take photos of any of the whales that come through, because gray whales have unique pigmentation on their bodies that's unique to each individual. It's kind of like a human thumbprint. No 2 gray whales look the same. And so by getting photos of them, we're able to know specifically who the whales are that come into our area. The other side of the research is to study the prey, all the things that the gray whales are eating. And the way that we do that is we actually send out a kayak. There's 3 things that the kayak team does at every station. They take a Secchi disc depth reading. It's essentially just a measure to see kind of how murky or how clear the waters are. Then we drop a GoPro down into the water, down to the very bottom, and then we pull it up slowly. And what we're hoping to do with the GoPro is to assess the amount of prey in the water column at that station, so that we can kind of compare high and low densities of prey. And then the final thing we do at each station is that we drop a little zooplankton net and we pull up a sample of whatever prey is at that station, which we then identify using a microscope in the lab to species level to try and determine whether gray whales may have preferences in terms of what prey is out there and how long they spend in a particular area. This is currently our 6th consecutive year of research, which is pretty amazing when considering that marine mammals, such as these gray whales, are long-lived species. They're like humans in that we believe they live to 60, 70, or even 80 years. And therefore it takes many years of research to get an idea of how they behave over the course of their lives. But that's exactly what we're starting to get at here with this project. I always like to say, if you study a human for a year, what do you really know about that human and their entire life? And it's exactly the same case with these gray whales.